The manhwa opens with a massive structure rising amidst storms of lightning and fire. Piles of skeletons lie scattered on the ground. A phoenix struggles amid burning flames, causing the silver-haired man to advance with determination. While a muscular man, the people prepare to attack beside a blue-haired woman wielding her weapon. The group launches a powerful combined attack against the flaming beast. The enormous phoenix then engulfed itself in flames as it descended to the ground. The three also descended to the ground while watching the phoenix exit. The man smiled proudly, having to defeat the guardian. The companion's face darkened as if he were planning something. He turned his head and looked at them in shock as the blade advanced toward him. They stared at him with a cold expression as the blade pierced his chest, causing him to shudder in pain. Then he falls to the ground. Questioning the betrayal, the woman smiled ironically while calling him Migo. The muscular man added that Migo was too strong and killing them made him enjoy the power. As his hands reached out to push him away, Migo then fell onto the fallen phoenix. With a furrowed face, his eyes narrowed as he cursed them. The two then launched to attack upon realizing that Migo was not yet dead. The monstrous phoenix wrapped in burning fire descends from the sky, causing Migo to be engulfed by the flames. His companions stopped in shock, realizing that the phoenix was not yet dead. A massive explosion then engulfed the entire battlefield. Migo shouted at them in fury, swearing to make them pay for what they did. They did the fire, then engulfed his entire body, leaving only his silhouette. A system notification appeared, indicating the change in the character's fate during loading. 300 years later, in the huge martial arts academy, a blonde teacher stood in front telling how the 9 black towers fell and monsters invaded humanity. The light of hope, the martial artists, were born and suppressed the monsters to protect humanity. The teacher grabbed the black cloth to show the beast a lower-level hyena, growled inside the cage while staring at them. The students were surprised, while others found it disgusting, making the beast roar furiously and scare them. The teacher then smiled and asked about the beast's weakness. The students seemed confused and complained about not remembering. Then they got confused upon hearing someone snoring in the distance. This caught the teacher's attention, who exclaimed in surprise. The students looked back and saw the classmate leaning against the tree. It was Migo, who was sleeping peacefully in the back, making the teacher shout his name angrily. Her voice echoed, asking Migo if he was tired of living. Migo's eyes suddenly widened. He clenched his fist and gritted his teeth as if ready to fight, raised his hand confused, asking where he was. While the others watched him, he brought his hands to his head, remembering that he died in the self-obstructed phoenix. Migo then realized he had been reborn after 300 years, smiled thinking that God would give him a chance. His eyes shone with determination to take revenge on Wang and Wan. Meanwhile, the teacher advanced for a strike, causing him to widen his eyes. In surprise, her pointed heels hit his face, sending him flying toward the nearby tree while the others watched. The teacher clenched her teeth in anger. For him, having slept in her classroom, Migo falls to the ground. While his classmates murmur that their teacher Harry has a violent temper, his lips formed an ironic smile, calling him trash. And for having little chance of becoming a martial artist, Migo got up confused, which led him to realize that the body he was in had class. His eyes widened. When something caught his attention, he was disappointed. Upon seeing that it was a low-ranking beast, the class representative Yuna called Harry and explained that Migo's family situation was not good. Kian, the purple-haired boy, smiled ironically while asking Yuna for a favor. He then looked back, saying that if Migo failed the test, he would be expelled. Harry ordered them to stop. She then grabbed her whip and said Migo was still her student. With a dark expression, she asked Migo about Rihanna's weak points while threatening. His classmates mocked and laughed at him from behind. While he remained silent, Yuna approached and said to Harry that the consequence was too much. Harry turned around, angrily asking if she was teaching him how to be a teacher. And Yuna looked down while Kian watched her with a dark and confused expression. Meanwhile, Migo arrogantly told them he had known their weak points. For a long time in his past life, he had massacred 18 hyena packs to train his fencing. The classmates mocked him, saying he was just bragging. Harry looked at him and ordered him to mention each weak point. She approached and pointed the whip, threatening if he was wrong. Migo smiled and raised his hand, saying that hyenas have 4 weak points. Harry was shocked to learn that Migo knew the 4th one. His classmates burst out laughing and mocked him, and Yuna looked at him worried and whispered that hyenas only have 3 weak points. Migo grabbed the back of his neck confused, because he couldn't believe the book didn't mention the 4th. Ian pointed at him and said that the hyena's weak points are only the throat, the belly, and the eyes. He then called him trash. Daring to question the teaching materials, he stepped forward and called Harry to punish Migo for his actions. Migo crossed his arms confidently, while Harry said nothing as she mocked Kian with a commanding tone. Harry ordered them to stop. Kian showed a wide, ironic smile while pointing at Migo to follow the order. But then Harry turned furious and told Kian that he was the one who should be quiet. She then turned back to Migo and asked what was the 4th weak point he had mentioned. Migo smiled and said it was simple, but then was interrupted. Hannah stared at them with piercing eyes. The cage then began to shake as he growled. Migo realized, thinking something was wrong with the hyena, and the beast then suddenly broke the cage, making Harry look back in shock. The hyena suddenly lunged toward the group of students, causing them to panic and run. She dropped in front of Kian, who stood stunned in place. He then ran and grabbed Yuna's shoulder. To protect her, the hyena then charged forward to launch an attack at Yuna. Harry's expression darkened as she screamed for Yuna. Terrified, she cursed in fear when the hyena's wide-open jaw almost hit her head. While a foot suddenly stepped forward, it was Migo. Saving and carrying Yuna away from the hyena's reach, he then clenched his teeth and pointed his glowing fingers at the hyena. The fingers hit the hyena's head, making it stop in midair. Feeling the pressure, he dropped Yuna while the hyena fell lifeless to the ground, then smiled confidently, telling everyone that the hyena's fourth weak point was the eyebrow. Migo looked at Yuna and asked if she was okay, to which she replied gratefully. Yuna's cheeks warmed, thinking that Migo's chest gave her security. Migo stood before the lifeless hyena, asking why it had been able to break the cage. Despite being the weakest, his eyes sharpened, thinking that was a little strange. A thread of light suddenly appeared on the hyena's forehead, making Migo look shocked as it lunged directly at him. A system notification appeared above him and announced that he had obtained a blood chi. He then touched it, surprised. Surprised, he clenched his fist with a smile, realizing he could increase his chi by killing the beast. His classmates were surprised to see him kill the hyena with a single blow. Harry sat beside the lifeless hyena, imagining that a simple finger from Migo could crush its skull. She looked at Migo and wondered what else he might be hiding. His students, worried, asked if the hyena was already dead, which made her stand up and reassure everyone. She then told everyone that Migo was right about the weak point, but that the lesson belongs to the higher-ups. She patted Migo on the shoulder and said he would earn extra points for doing well. Migo then smiled in response and thanked her. The students were surprised to hear the teacher. Another retorted and said that Migo was just lucky this time. Migo's classmates were now drooling over him for being stronger than Ian. The latter clenched his teeth and fist in anger. He then raised his hand with a contorted face, pretending not to be afraid, boasting about the hyenas being raised at his house for protection, and stepped toward the lifeless hyena's body, bragging that he could kill it like Migo, because his chi is greater than his. The classmates laughed at him. Knowing he was just bragging, Yuna put her hands to her forehead in disbelief. While the other girls mocked Kian, Kian exploded in fury, telling the classmates he would prove it to them. He opened the hyena's mouth and put his head inside it, causing the girl to cover her face in disgust. Harry called him, telling him to stop playing. Migo crossed his arms, thinking he would teach Kian a lesson for mocking him. He casually tossed a small stone between his fingers. The stone hit the hyena's head with incredible force. The jaw suddenly snapped shut, trapping Kian's head inside the mouth. He struggled and wet his pants while begging everyone to save him. Harry and the other students stared at him expressionlessly, considering him an idiot. Kian panted heavily with his tongue out. Realizing it was a false alarm, Harry covered her mouth, ordering Kian to take a shower and change his pants. The students laughed at him and mocked him for wetting his pants, which made him run away from there. Migo sighed, hoping Kian wouldn't have nightmares because of what happened. The tall school building rose against the sky. The voice echoed as classes ended. Students left through the gate, some even inviting others to the new cafe. Kian waited for Yuna, worried outside. With a flower behind his back, Yuna suddenly appeared, walking elegantly outside. Kian took the opportunity and called her, making her turn and ask. He bowed and offered her the flower, apologizing for what happened. He gave a wide smile and invited her on a date. At the new cafe, Yuna hesitated, waved her hand and said she would only accept the apology. Ian was about to respond, but Migo suddenly caught Yuna's attention. She turned and said goodbye, walking away from the scene. Yuna caught up with Migo and immediately thanked him for saving her. She cheerfully asked if he was free and invited him to the newly opened cafe at Hero Plaza. Migo looked at her and said he had something else to do. Yuna still asked when he would be free, to which he replied, sometime. The eyes that had previously sparred narrowed as he clenched his teeth. In anger, his grip tightened, while watching the two walking together. Hey, did you watch the video this far and still haven't subscribed to the channel? What's up with that? Dude, you're slacking. Huh, come on, man. Subscribe, so we can hit 100,000 subscribers. It would make me really happy. Huh. Hoo. Migo went to the Heroes Plaza where he saw the statue of Wang and Wan. In the center, a bouquet of flowers was seen. Considering a tribute to their supposed hero Wan, Wan became the hero of humanity. As they saw them as the ones who defeated the Phoenix, Migo watched this video, happily talking about the two. He smiled bitterly, remembering the betrayal the two had committed. With his sharp gaze, he swore to reveal the true face of his supposed heroes, then stepped away when someone ordered them to follow. It was Kian ordering his men to attack Migo in the alley. Migo enters the dark alley, Unaware of the danger awaiting him, he thought about how difficult it is to find a beast in the city's center. Two different shoes approached. Kian's two men blocked his way, calling him arrogant. The curly-haired guy with beasts on his back threatened him. Migo was confused and asked who they were. Kian suddenly appeared in the middle of the group of men and asked why Migo was alone. He turned and asked if Kian had brought him trouble again. Kian pointed at him angrily, saying his hatred would not disappear if Migo were not crippled. Migo's expression darkened, repeating what Kian had said while calling his men trash. The guy's face twisted, calling Migo weak for having 10 chi. Kian's men advanced simultaneously, eager to teach Migo a lesson. While he remained impassive in the middle, Kian laughed wildly, swearing he would make Migo worse than trash. Migo's eyes shone with rage, throwing and defeating Kian's men in a quick move. While landing perfectly on the ground, he then positioned himself confidently in the middle of the defeated men. Ian and the guy stared with expressions of disgust. Not believing what had happened, Migo clenched his fist with a smile and told Kian that his men could not cripple him. Kian nervously told him not to get conceited because it was not over yet. He ordered the guy to release the hyena and he followed him. The guy arrogantly challenged Migo to kill the hyenas. While releasing the chains, the hyenas roared when the muzzle fell off. They immediately charged to prepare an attack. Ryan smiled openly, saying the hyenas were professionally trained. Migo remained unperturbed, not caring about the approaching hyenas. He then let out a laugh, saying all hyenas are no different. While preparing to attack, he ran towards the hyenas as if they were welcoming him, then jumped and deliberately pointed his fingers at their foreheads. He fell to the ground, while the hyenas fell lifeless in an instant. Kian was surprised, incredulous to witness an instant death. Again, the guy was surprised, because he knew Migo was no longer a martial artist but had defeated his strongest hyena. In an instant, the system prompt appeared and announced the additional chi. While Migo clenched his fist proudly, Kian realized how strong Migo was and tried to flee the scene, but then Migo appeared frighteningly from behind, telling Kian it was his turn now, and Kian was alarmed. Afraid to face Migo, he suddenly kicked his private parts. Eyes wide, Kian was thrown through the air screaming. Holding the front of his body, the guy looked at Kian horrified. Not believing what had happened, Migo then stared at him, saying he had heard of the hyena gang. He asked if the guy had more hyenas, to which the guy responded scared. The guy suddenly exploded, saying the hyena gang was the biggest gang in Shang-Chi. Migo ordered him to shut up and punched him directly in the face, then ordered the poor guy to take him to their gang, grabbed his head and threatened to torture him if he continued speaking in the city of Shanghai. The two walked to the place. The guy pointed to the door ahead of them, saying that was their base. Migo smiled and ordered him to go away. What made the guy ask surprised? Confident, Migo said he would find the boss and talk to him. Meanwhile, two hyenas fought each other. A loud noise echoed in the small ring, while the bettors bet on their favorite hyena. While someone watched from above, the old man suddenly asked where the third brother had taken the hyenas. The assistant then told him that the young master wanted to teach a lesson to a child and brought them. His eyebrows furrowed, indicating that the third brother had been getting worse lately. The door suddenly opened. When someone kicked it from outside, the players turned their backs surprised. While a silhouette rose behind the smoke, this caught the old man's attention, leading him to ask who it was. Someone then stepped forward. It was Migo, introducing himself and asking who was the leader of the hyena gang. The old man called out the name Migo, saying it sounded familiar. His assistant then reminded him that Migo was the one his third brother was looking for. The old man then took a drag from his cigarette, thinking it was himself, then asked Migo why he was alone and where his third brother was. Migo smiled confidently, noticing that the old man was the gang leader. Migo smiled, saying the old man was mistaken because he could not be captured and that he had come there alone. The old man reacted confused, asking Migo why, because the latter pointed at him, saying he wanted to help them kill the hyenas, revealed that private animal races are forbidden, and offered to help clean up the evidence. The gang members mocked him, saying he came to get beaten up. The members laughed, asking where he got the courage to kill all the hyenas. The old man then cursed and ordered his members to get Migo's legs away and throw him out. The members responded cheerfully while preparing their bats to attack. They then advanced towards Migo, pointing their weapons while he remained impassive. The fight started when the old man turned his back and told Migo he was just wasting time. The members of his gang were thrown in all directions, making him stop in shock. He then turned surprised and asked what was happening. Migo clenched his fist, saying he'd only come to help them, but they fought back. The members were scared upon realizing Migo was strong. Despite being a student, the cigarette then fell to the ground and was stepped on by the old man. His eyes widened as he arrogantly ordered Migo to kill all the hyenas with a contorted face. He ordered to release all the hyenas. The members were surprised when the hyenas charged, while the others applauded Kai, the old man, and the hyenas. The beasts charged towards the confident Migo, their eyes shining with determination. As he jumped up, he kicked the two mere hyenas with a quick move. Sending them to the ground, the spectators were left open-mouthed, witnessing Migo's instant death and Tanya. Red energies went directly to Migo, who obtained another key from the lifeless hyenas. The worried assistant asked Kai what their plan was, which made Kai curse and rage while ordering to release all the hyenas. The members ran to fulfill his request. The cage opened and all the hyenas surrounded Migo. The latter smiled confidently because things finally got interesting. A minute later, he was fighting the hyena pack with his dog-beating technique. But some minutes passed. He was still fighting the hyenas and throwing them in the air half an hour later. The hyenas were scared and tried to escape, but he chased them. Kai's jaw dropped, witnessing how Migo defeated everything. The system prompt appeared, showing his increased chi. While he proudly stood in the middle of the defeated hyenas, he then stepped on her head while the spectators were left speechless. Migo arrogantly asked if it was the end since he was just warming up. He smiled and ordered Kai to release more hyenas for him. Kai got furious, telling him not to get conceited, because he could defeat him with his subordinates. He then pointed his finger and ordered them to fight together against Migo. After a moment of silence, no one appeared, so he turned around confused, asking where his subordinates were. Then they fled the fight, saying they weren't foolish enough to fight a monster. Pai cursed them furiously for their blatant betrayal. Migo suddenly appeared behind them, making them sweat with fear. He was surprised and asked what Migo wanted to do. Migo smiled and asked where he could get more hyenas and other animals. Kai angrily pointed at him, saying he wouldn't reveal anything even if he died. Migo smiled threateningly while clenching his hands. Suddenly, a chaotic explosion of dark energy burst out. After getting hurt, Kai revealed that they had bought the hyenas. At the Eclipse Arena, Migo narrowed his eyes, remembering that he used to go there in the past, then asked when the arena would open and who the boss was. Kai answered that the arena opens every weekend and that he didn't know the boss. Migo then leaned forward while giving him a pat on the shoulder, saying that Kai would take him there. Kai was shocked, repeating what Migo had said. Migo turned and asked if he wasn't willing, to which Kai hesitantly replied that it was only for members. Migo coldly revealed that Kai has had an injury for over 10 years, which made Kai ask in shock. He then confidently told Kai that he knew how to heal him. Migo ordered Kai to prepare the necessary items, which made Kai point at him in shock because he knew those were materials used by alchemists. Kai's subordinates also looked at them in shock because they knew alchemists are rare, because they can create a potion that transforms a normal human into a martial artist. Kai then suspected that Migo was an alchemist, but was a little confused. Migo then proceeded to say that he would only give Kai 1 minute to gather everything, which led Kai to hurry and prepare everything he needed. Kai smiled widely, thinking his luck could change if he had Migo's support inside the clean room. The two faced each other with the ingredients on the table. Kai cheerfully said he had prepared everything Migo had said. The latter responded while examining the ingredient, then slammed the table and ordered the ingredients to rise. A blue energy formed above him. While he chanted a reaction formula, Kai's jaw dropped. Upon learning that only an alchemist could learn that formula, he opened a wide smile, knowing he could get rich with the alchemist. A blue liquid formed in Migo's hand, making him smile in success. Kai pointed to the blue liquid above Migo's palm, asking if it was the medicine. Migo then stretched, saying it had been a long time since he made a level 3 recovery liquid. Kai looked shocked. Knowing that a level 3 medicine is worth 1,000 gold, Migo ordered him to open his mouth while pointing his fingers, which led Kai to open his mouth. The medicine went straight into his mouth, swallowing. He then looked at his hand as it glowed with blue energy. His eyes widened with happiness as he held his body. While his injury healed instantly, Kai then knelt down, swearing to do everything Migo asked to repay what he had done. Bored friend told him he didn't need to do all that. He then stepped back and said to let him enter the arena. That weekend, Kai suddenly followed and asked if he could send him away. Meanwhile, in the busy market, someone's voice receded. While one day, a girl with braids was happily selling rat skewers. An old man then asks the girl named Yuri if her older brother hadn't returned. She then replies that she had no idea, because she was busy selling. The buyer then mocked the brother friend. Furious, she stole the rat skewer and told the buyer to shut up. The buyer waved his hand, saying he was just joking, while Yuri was furiously angry. A man suddenly pushed the buyer angrily, leaving Yuri alarmed. The man and his subordinates then asked Yuri for a stall position fee. Yuri was surprised and told them she had already paid in advance for this month. The guy admitted they had to pay 3 times a month, but gave a discount because of the friend. Yuri got scared and asked for a few more days because she had no money. The guy approached her saying they couldn't do that. He then grabbed her shoulder and asked her to pay with her own body. The old man offered to lend money to Yuri, but the guy suddenly kicked him in the stomach and told him to mind his own business. The old man fell to the ground, making Yuri call him worried. The onlookers were scared, witnessing the scene. The guy touched Yuri's hair and ordered her to obediently follow him. Yuri retorted, saying she'd rather die than be with them. The guy smiled crazily and raised his hand, making Yuri scream in horror. A sharp piece of wood suddenly passed by, throwing the guy's hand back as it pierced it. He then screamed in pain while holding his hand. Yuri turned her face and looked at the person behind her friend who was eating skewers. Relieved to have arrived in time, the guy panicked and ordered his subordinates to quickly remove the skewer from his hand. They noticed the skewer was very deep. While the guy turned purple from pain, the onlookers were surprised, saying he suddenly got strong. Yuri called her older brother. While the confident friend told her not to thank him, she then jumped happily and asked, "Why would I thank you?" Yuri suddenly examined her body, confused about why he had gotten so strong. Suddenly, friend pretended to cough and told Yuri not to get excited, because he was no longer a martial artist. Yuri's eyes teared up, thinking he hadn't become a martial artist. The guy got up and cursed the friend for being arrogant, making everyone look at him. The guy recovered, eager to teach the friend a lesson, and Yuri panicked and told her brother to run, because he wasn't a match for them. The guy's face twisted, and he ordered his subordinates to stop the friend. The subordinates quickly advanced and surrounded the brothers. The guy smiled openly and threatened the friend. While holding a dagger, Yuri suddenly protected the friend, saying she would go with them. The guy's gaze became piercing, saying it was too late. He then smiled widely, saying he wouldn't kill. The friend licked the blade frantically, telling his terrible plan. The friend's fists suddenly advanced toward his face, sending him flying through the air while he trembled in pain. His two subordinates were shocked. Witnessing the older brother's defeat, the friend's eyes shone with anger. Threatening the scoundrels in front of him, Yuri asked, confused, because she knew he wasn't a martial artist. The friend smiled and told her he was not far from becoming one. He petted her head. While apologizing and swearing he would protect her, Yuri's eyes filled with tears. While she smiled and acknowledged him, the guy recovered and sat down, complaining about his handsome face. Curious, ordered his subordinates to kill the friend. The two then approached the friend, asking how he wanted to die. The friend gave an arrogant smile and called them mere clowns. In a quick move, the two were lying on the ground, causing their master to widen his eyes. Migo's eyes shone with anger as he clenched his fist. He stopped in front of the boy, saying it was now his turn. The boy confidently told him that the Ina's gang was supporting him, which led Yuri to stop his older brother since they couldn't provoke them. The spectators suddenly ran towards them while also stopping him. Migos put it aside and asked the boy if his boss was really Kai. The boy gave a wide smile and arrogantly asked if Migo that was regretting it now. Then he pointed at Migo with a wide smile, but was interrupted by Kai, who ran excitedly towards Migo with some snacks. Kai offered him the snacks and said he would buy more if any were missing. The boys suddenly called Kai, incredulously asking what was going on. The spectators were also surprised by his attitude regarding Migo. Kai suddenly realized the situation. Migo pointed forward, saying he was ready to eliminate. The bully of Kai's sister stepped forward, curious, saying he would take care of the bully. He was surprised when Migo mentioned that thanks to his support, the guy would manage Kai. Suddenly pointed to himself, confused, and asked again. He ran towards Migo, nervously asking him to hear his explanation. The guy interrupted and introduced himself as Goro, the leader of the second dog gang. He ran to hug Kai's legs and begged to spare him. His eyes widened, realizing suddenly that Migo had a relationship with Kai. The civilians were shocked to hear the increase of Phi. Everyone looked at friend, wanting to ask for his help. Goro smiled widely, asking for Kai's opinion. The latter gave him an angry slap on the face and told him to shut up. He was furious, saying that Goro no longer had kinship with the hyena gang now, just on the ground trembling. While Kai apologized to the civilians for not teaching them a lesson, he then raised his hand and announced that there would be no Morristal's son. The civilians were surprised by this sudden announcement. Suddenly, they applauded Migo because he was responsible for everything. Yuri admired his older brother's strength, while Kai suddenly approached them. Happily, Migo said goodbye to him, reminding him not to forget to take him to the Eclipse Arena. And Kai smiled proudly while watching them, wishing to be recognized by Migo. Meanwhile, at the Kim family mansion, the old man asked Yuna about the lesson about beasts they had that day. It was Gang, her father, was asking if she had been scared. Yuna did not admit she was scared, because he would teach her a lesson again. She then added that the class only brought the lowest ranking beast. Her father smiled at her and praised her for being amazing. And Yuna then noticed the time, which led her to say goodbye to her father to study. Someone suddenly called Kim with a cape, ordered Kim to investigate how the hyena had escaped from the classroom. Kim bowed and said that someone had injected a berserk drug into him. She and Jang narrowed her eyes and asked who had done that, who respectfully answered that they were still investigating, but the culprit had left a clue. He then suspected that the culprit might be sending a threatening message to Jane. This last one punched the table, then mocked and had the audacity to threaten him furiously. He stood up and ordered Kim to investigate more deeply to protect his daughter, which Kim immediately did. Jane held her chin and thought about the berserk drug, looked out the window and reflected on the Eclipse Arena. Meanwhile, at the Eclipse Arena, a man in armor faced a beast. It was a one-horned ghost tiger approaching him. The spectators applauded loudly, urging them to fight quickly. Migo looked around, already understanding the situation and what was inside the arena, while Kai smiled beside him. He then looked down, thinking that humans and Veras were enemies. But now it was just entertainment for them. The ghost tiger advanced, landing on the armored man's shield. The shield broke instantly, and the man was thrown against the arena wall. The man fell lifeless to the ground. While the ghost tiger roared in victory, Kai clenched his teeth. Irritated at losing again, Migo suddenly asked him curiously if there were restrictions to enter the stage. Kai replied no and asked why. Migo smiled and decided to go down and increase his ki before going. He ordered Kai to buy 10,000 silver coins and bet that he would win. Then he jumped onto the stage, leaving Kai in panic on the VIP room balcony and an assistant bored by the defeat. Again, her father told her it was okay, adding that 1,000 silver coins was little. He dropped his 100 gold coins and told Yuna to play. She then smiled and thanked her father. Jen originally planned to play on stage, but Yuna insisted on going. He then asked about Migo, catching Yuna by surprise. She twisted her hair and told her father that Migo had helped before. He then replied that he had heard about Migo's low level of ki. Migo had offered to give Migo a stable job, so she wouldn't have to worry about anything. Jang put down his coffee and stood firm while giving his daughter a lecture. He patted her head, saying it was for her own good. Back on stage, the spectators were surprised to witness the ghost tiger's defeat. Migo stood up amid praise while stepping on the beast. He smiled proudly at finally becoming a martial artist. Yuna happily called her father and pointed to Migo, who defeated the beast. While Jane was left speechless with surprise, Yuna cheerfully asked her father if Migo had the skill of a martial artist. Jane told her that the beast must have been exhausted and that's why Migo defeated it. Yuna crossed her arms suspiciously and asked her father about his reaction to Migo. The father doubted that Migo couldn't become a martial artist, while Yuna got annoyed with his pats. She then smiled and looked at Migo, saying he was strong. The workers then dragged the fallen animal away from him. Migo smiled and asked if there were even stronger animals. Meanwhile, a man was eating his meal. He was about to take a bite when suddenly, his assistant called him Lord Rion and told him about Migo. Rion wiped his lips and asked about the previous troublemaker. The assistant told him the object was shattered. He then ordered her to organize everything quickly. The assistant bowed and immediately followed him back to the stage. Kai applauded Migo and said how amazing he was. Migo then asked to pass Parties, but he was confused. He casually asked for money, because he ordered him to bet 10,000 silver coins. Kai's face turned purple, and he panicked instantly, saying he had forgotten. Migo, with deadly eyes, asked him to repeat once more. Kai ran as fast as he could and told Migo he would bet 20,000 on him, then wiped the sweat, thinking about how scary Migo was. Suddenly, a beast jumped in front of him. It was a 2-star beast with soldier rank 1, a fox cat, and 1 watching from above, incredulous that Migo would fight more. Yuna looked down, worried, saying she trusted Migo. In an instant, the beast was defeated and thrown to the ground. Yuna happily told her father that Migo had won again. Jang scratched his chin, indicating the beast must have been observed before. The Konturo clenched his teeth in anger while Migo stared determinedly. Jang didn't know why Migo kept fighting. Yuna mocked her father, who kept insisting that Migo would lose. He was confident, told her not to worry because he wasn't wrong this time. Meanwhile, Migo sent the bull flying with a single punch. Yuna cheered for Migo when he won again while Young was left speechless, incredulous. She then mockingly asked her father. While he stammered, Young's eyes widened, telling Yuna to look at Migo and the beast. Migo was now facing a 6-star gorilla with a soldier's rank. Jane was confused by the arena's plan while Yuna leaned forward. Worried, she grabbed her father and asked if he could save him. Migo, with teary eyes, she knew that martial artists, veterans didn't dare provoke this kind of beast. Jane looked at her hesitantly, then agreed to save him because Migo had saved Yuna before, then called someone beside him and ordered the maid to notify Tien to stop the duel next. He added that Migo was his subordinate. The maid bowed to follow him and asked for a moment. While serving the red wine, the assistant reported what Jen had delivered to the maid. Tien looked at her and asked if Jen had come. He said angrily that Jen hadn't learned his lesson, even after the incident with the hyena. His face twisted, ordering the assistant to bring the toad while instructing to reject Jen's request. The assistant apologized to Jane. He explained the arena's rules, adding that there were many people watching and that Jane couldn't interfere. The latter looks at his daughter and says he can't help. He holds her by the shoulder, revealing that Migo can only trust himself. The assistant approaches when she's about to say something. With a look of disgust, she handed the message to Jane, informing that it would no longer be an angry hyena. Jane was surprised to hear this. He already expected it to be the second Master Edward. His eyebrows furrowed, indicating he would make Edward pay, and a curious one asked her father what had happened. Jang forced a smile. saying he was tired while thinking of ways to protect her. Meanwhile, Kaio wanted to bet everything on Migo, while his subordinates stopped him with clenched teeth. He said it was now or never, then inserted the card, while his subordinates cried in the background. The spectators thought Kaio had gone mad. The gorilla furiously charged at Migo, then tried to crush him, but he dodged quickly. With a smile on his face, he continued the attack, from which Migo dodged once again. The gorilla threw a punch, but Migo jumped forward to dodge, then created distance between them. He wiped his lips, thinking it would be hard not to use his skills. The gorilla stood still, while Migo's hand glowed. As he tried to use his skill, he smiled with a sword in hand, eager to test his skill on the gorilla. The spectators were sure he wouldn't compare to the gorilla even with a weapon. They added that Migo should have left to avoid provoking the arena, but it was too late. Zheng patted his daughter's shoulder, telling her she shouldn't watch anymore, and Yuna gritted her teeth, telling her father she would save him. Zheng grabbed her wrist and held her back. The gorilla roared threateningly, then jumped up, ready to crush Migo. While he prepared his sword, the spectators applauded the gorilla to kill him. Kaio clenched his teeth with a clenched fist, hoping his boss would win, and Yuna began to cry while trying to reach him, but her father assured. Zheng then covered her eyes with his hand, a lightning bolt installed in his sword, as he activated his lightning sword strike and hit the gorilla before he landed. The gorilla growled in pain as Migo attacked perfectly. The gorilla fell lifeless to the ground while Migo remained unscathed. The spectators were once again shocked by the instant death. While others were amazed, people were stunned, unable to believe it, while Yuna curiously asked him. She then broke into a wide smile upon seeing that Migo was fine, then asked her father if someone had helped Migo kill the gorilla. He firmly answered that no one helped Migo and that he killed everything alone, making Yuna exclaim in shock. A Cheeto gorilla was added to him, making him smile victoriously. Kaio and his subordinates waved happily, saying they had gotten rich. Everyone laughs and dances in the middle, leaving Migo embarrassed in the Stellar Eclipse lobby. Kaio and his subordinates were at a reception. He asked the receptionist ironically, saying that only he had won the bet. Then he told the others arrogantly that he felt bad, but then laughed with satisfaction. Migo thought that the money they had won could improve their living conditions. Yuna caught his attention by calling him by name. He asked curiously to Yuna about her presence in the arena. Yuna replied that she was watching him from above. Migo smiled and thanked in response, and she became embarrassed. While Migo wondered about her silence, Zheng suddenly called and said they were leaving. She turned her face and answered her father, then looked at Migo and took a step forward. Her cheeks blushed, and she said she wanted to invite him to her birthday party. She looked at him and asked if she could. Migo then told her he would attend if there was nothing important to do. She then smiled happily, saying it was a promise. She then walked away, humming happily as she walked. Migo looked at her curiously, thinking she was in love with him. A frog suddenly jumped in front of Yuna, making her stop with the USA. She asked curiously what that cute frog was doing there. Migo was alarmed upon recognizing the thing. He ran quickly towards her and ordered her to step back. The frog emitted a green energy. While biting the ribs, Migo held her against his chest, while a blinding light slowly enveloped them. The spectators were shocked. When the two succumbed to the light, Jen shouted her daughter's name worriedly as she fell, called Migo happily but found no one. He then looked around curiously. The loudspeaker suddenly emitted a sound announcing an emergency report, ordered everyone to evacuate while the traveling frog escaped from prison. Meanwhile, inside the Twilight Forest in an abandoned city, a flickering light appeared in front of them and spat the two out with the friendly frog. Grabbed the traveling frog tightly. He asked angrily to the frog where they had been teleported. A loud roar caught their attention, making them look back. A group of wolves suddenly emerged from the forest. Migo cursed in frustration. While the lunar wolves approached, he considered the situation bad, because wolves move in groups in an unknown forest. With a pack of wolves and a weak companion, he realized he was in a worse situation. The moon wolves howled as they prepared to attack. While Migo picked up a stone from the ground with a serious tone, he ordered Yuna to run quickly on the count of 3, but got no response and asked her, gritting his teeth, confirming if she could hear him. But the wolves suddenly lunged to attack. He cursed in frustration, because it was too late, and prepared to fight. He jumped forward, hitting each moon wolf with a stone in hand. He then landed perfectly on the ground while the wolves fell. He then found it strange that the moon wolves were not aggressive, and one suddenly called him, but he ignored. He proudly told her that he defeated all the moon wolves that attacked them, and she laughed at him, saying the wolves' targets were not them. She then showed him the lunar wolf pups, saying that they were them. Migo looked on with admiration, realizing they were the pups. She walked up to them and said she had read the school materials, and Yuna returned the pups and informed Migo that was all they needed to do. The moon wolves happily welcomed their pups. Migo's expression darkened as he stared at the animals as enemies. Looking at the wolves, he decided to attack them. He clenched his fist, preparing to attack suddenly. Yuna showed him the pup and encouraged him to hug it. He was surprised and dismissed it with a wave. Yuna forcibly handed over the pup, causing Migo to panic and scream. The sleeping pup was now in his hands with rosy cheeks. Realizing it was really cute, Migo noticed the animals had emotions and family values. He looked at them, wondering if he would kill the animals. The wolf offered them a dead rabbit, then growled as if saying something, and Yuna then told Migo that the wolves were showing kindness because they returned the pups. Migo grabbed the rabbit and thanked the wolf, thinking they were showing gratitude. The grass moved, making Migo look back alarmed. It was a hunter pointing a gun at them. Migo ordered everyone to be careful while he began to move. The wolf protected him from the bullets, causing him to freeze in shock. Then, he fell lifeless to the ground. While the two remained in shock, Yuna reached out to the wolf because she couldn't believe it. But Migo ran to her and hugged her to get down. The two landed on the ground. While the flaming bullet stream came from above, a huge explosion occurred. While the hunters kept shooting, the moon wolves howled and protected the pups. They then charged to attack a hunter, but the assassins appeared. They then struck them violently and mocked them for acting arrogantly. While the wolves fell lifeless, Yuna held her face and asked what was happening. They sneaked and discovered that all the wolves were dead, but the pups were unharmed. And Yuna was shocked because she couldn't believe what she saw. The hunters stepped forward. They happily gathered all the liars and the pups. Yuna's eyes teared up with anger. While she cursed them, she was about to leave. When Migo pulled her close, she then looked at Migo and told him what they had done, but Migo ignored it, saying, "Humans and beasts are enemies," and Yuna retorted, saying that the wolves were being friendly to them. Migo looked down and told her that he was still a beast and they were humans, and Yuna was devastated but decided to isolate herself. Migo held her hand and decided to follow the hunters to find the way back. The bald hunter noticed the two and asked about their whereabouts. His subordinate then pointed at them. Migo said they were from the Martial Arts Academy and were accidentally teleported. The hunters looked at them, repeating what Migo had said. The bald hunter's face twisted, indicating the two were food by nature. He then ordered his subordinates to capture them alive. The hunters surrounded them while shamelessly sharing their fantasies with Yuna. She was frightened and asked what they were trying to do. Migo's eyes sharpened as he warned the hunters not to do something stupid. The hunter advanced toward him with a rifle in hand. Migo blocked the attack with one hand. He then stared intently at the hunter. The hunter's face twisted in horror as Migo delivered a powerful punch to his face, sending him flying into the forest. Migo remained standing with his fist clenched, saying he felt better now. He then challenged the hunter to attack him. The bald hunter furiously ordered the others to attack him. The hunters prepared their weapons. Then they began to shoot and simultaneously attack with daggers. Migo suddenly appeared in front of them and mocked them. Migo activated his shock lightning, leaving blue tentacles behind. While pushing the enemies away, the bald hunter stood with his mouth open, witnessing Migo's strength. The latter appeared before him, causing the bald hunter to step back in. Shocked, Migo firmly asked him why he had attacked an academy student. The hunter gritted his teeth in anger, telling Migo he had no right to ask. His fist suddenly filled with flames, aiming at Migo. The latter casually blocked his fist. He then revealed that the hunter had broken the rules to be able to kill him. The hunter tried to stop him, but Migo couldn't stop him and kicked his face. The hunter was thrown far away while Migo kicked again. Migo punched him in the stomach, eager to kill him. The hunter fell to the ground before him. He then told his commander Q that he would not spare. Migo Fish stepped on his head. While firmly saying he would wait for him, Migo turned his face and asked if Yuna was okay. While she affirmed she worried about the pups on her chest, which led her to ask Migo if they could take them with them. Migo agreed and said he would only collect what the hunters had looted. He then began to search for the dead hunters when a crimson crystal fell from his pocket. He raised it with admiration, realizing they were chi crystals, and then asked what those crystals were. He replied that they could increase the chi of a martial artist, then called Yuna and ordered her to leave while they began to run. Meanwhile, the hunters spread through the forest. The hunter informed his commander that the third team was nearby, but couldn't find anything that told him he had already seen the hunters, the fallen hunters, and ordered them to examine the corpse. The hunters followed him and began to search. Kyo boldly asked his uncle when they would capture the star deer. He was surprised to see the corpses on the ground. The hunters told Kyo that they didn't find any crystals. Kyo then apologized to Kyo because he needed to solve the problem first before capturing the deer. His voice echoed through the forest to capture the thieves over the dark sky in an abandoned city. A shoe stepped on the leaflet on the ground. The two were now walking through the city center. Migo told Yuna that this was the commercial center of the time, and before it was busy, he remembered the people when there were no animals yet. Yuna catches up to Migo. While saying they should walk outside, Migo ignores, saying they were not familiar with the forest. Yuna smiled warmly while holding the pups on her chest. A loud roar suddenly echoed, causing the two to look back. Shocked and a worried one asked Migo what they would do now. Migo replied that they would go there and familiarize themselves with the environment. Meanwhile, a girl was in front of a huge beast. It was a soldier-level land lizard, roaring before her. Then it stared at her and prepared itself. The girl, Rona, prepared her weapon to attack the beast. The two watched from afar while Yuna worried about the girl. She then asked Migo to save the girl, but Migo told her to go alone, and Yuna pointed to herself, saying she couldn't do it alone. Migo looked at her and said it was nature, not their city. Yuna looked down disappointed, but Migo added that Rona didn't need their help. Rona took a step forward while brandishing her spear, and Una looked at her in shock. While Rona advanced toward the huge lizard, its tail suddenly attacked her. She then dove to escape the tail. She then aimed her arrow at the beast. Her flaming arrows hit the lizard's head directly. The lizard roared in pain, breaking the ground. Rona advanced with a dagger, eager to kill the lizard. She then pierced the animal's head. She stood up and wiped her cheeks, then declared that the lizard was enough for her to eat for a few days. The two still watched Rona while saying she was strong. Migo watched her firmly, knowing her skills were above normal. An arrow suddenly hit the rubble in front of them. Catching them off guard, Migo's eyes narrowed as Rona spotted them. Rona aimed her arrows at them and ordered them to leave. Migo examined her, thinking she was not normal. Yuna told Migo she would negotiate since they were both girls. She raised the pup and handed it over to Migo, which he confirmed. Confused, Yuna smiled warmly. Thinking she should do something useful for Migo, she waved happily at Rona and said they were from Celeste City. Rona suddenly became alarmed. She considered her dangerous and aimed her arrows at her. Yuna panicked, seeing her. Nervously asked Rona why she was afraid of her. Rona got furious and told her to shut up, leaving Yuna with no choice. Migo stepped out and told Yuna to stop wasting her breath, because Rona is part of an abandoned race. Yuna, curious, asked him about it, while he told what had happened years ago. Migo told her that humanity built several cities, and that humans moved there. However, some humans couldn't enter the federal city and thought they were abandoned. Yuna asked him about it, saying the government had the capacity to save them. Migo revealed that the cities no longer had space for new cities. He continued, saying that people like Rona are now used to living in nature, and Yuna looked at her with concern, saying they were pitiful. An arrow suddenly hit the ground. Leaving Yuna in shock, Rona ordered them to leave immediately, saying the troglodyte was hers. Migo stepped forward, explained that they were not interested in him and that she had been poisoned by his blood. Rona firmly told him she didn't believe them. She once again aimed her arrows and said they were liars. Migo effortlessly dodged the flaming arrows while telling her they couldn't cause him any harm. Rona raised her hand and told him not to get cocky. A green energy surrounded her as she activated her technique. The Vinny suddenly appeared after her arrows and began to coil around his legs, catching Migo off guard while Yuna worriedly told him to be careful. Rona jumped on him with her dagger, but Migo ordered her to fall. She then went down and fell asleep on the ground. Migo awkwardly told her she was poisoned. While Yuna was confused, Yuna sneaked behind, asking what was wrong, and he replied that Rona was poisoned. He examined Rona's forehead and told Yuna she would help. Migo thought about Rona's talent and was impressed. Yuna, curious, asked him where they could find antidotes in nature. He walked to the lizard and revealed it had detoxifying organs. Yuna was surprised because Migo knew so much. He then told her it was because of his experience, then showed her the detoxifying gland he had found. He set it aside and looked for other ingredients, managed to find them, but Yuna told him not to give them directly to the girl. Migo suddenly activated a fire current formula, causing Yuna to react in shock. A purple liquid formed suddenly in the palm of his hand. He smiled proudly, telling her everything was ready while asking Yuna about what she had said. Yuna then replied it was nothing. She then asked curiously where Migo had learned alchemy. Migo revealed he had learned from home books. He then went straight to Rona, while Yuna reflected on the answer. He then transferred the purple liquid to Rona's mouth. Rona slowly opened her eyes, asking where she was. The two looked at her and asked if she was okay. She was shocked to see the two and decided to pretend, while Yuna asked if she had fainted again. Migo said that if she kept pretending, he would take the beast away. She then bit his arms, saying it was hers. Migo shook his arm while Amanda let go. She then fell to the ground and was surprised to be healed. Suddenly, she held Migo's hand and asked if he was a respected pharmacist. Migo admitted that he was indeed a pharmacist. Yuna asked Hona how they could get out of there. Hona replied that she could take them outside, but Migo needed to see his tribe first. Migo asked curiously why he needed to go. Ona was about to speak when she was suddenly interrupted. Yuna and Hana were surprised to hear a crash. The hunter surrounded the three, telling them they weren't going anywhere. Kyo ordered Migo to hand over the crimson crystal while threatening him. Migo's eyes narrowed in confusion. Suddenly, he kicked the lizard toward them, ordering it to be quiet. The dead lizard flew above them, while Kyo ordered the hunters to shoot. Their weapon fired a flaming bullet, continuously shooting at the flying terrestrial lizard. Migo jumped on the lizard and aimed arrows at it. It was surprised by Migo's move, who was eager to eliminate everyone except one. Then he released the arrow while the three advanced afterward. It hit the hunters directly, making them shudder in pain. He quickly appeared in front of the hunter and cut him with a dagger that Kyo pointed the gun at him, but Migo immediately kicked his balls. Kyo's face turned purple and twisted in pain. The dead lizard fell to the ground. Migo grabbed Kyo while pointing his dagger and ordered everyone not to move. The hunters shouted, asking him to release their boss. Migo then retaliated, ordering them to release Yuna and Rona first. The hunter smiled ironically, saying they captured 2, while Migo only had 1, and Yuna told Migo not to care about them while Rona followed him and ordered him to kill the hunters and warned Migo to surrender obediently. Migo suddenly kicked their legs, making them shudder in pain. Migo ordered him to tell the hunters to release the 2, who turned their faces in fury and called him a bastard. He then ordered the hunters to break the legs of Yuna and Rona. The hunter followed him and raised his rifle, but Migo shouted that he would kill his boss if anyone got hurt. The hunter stopped, confused about what to do, and told his subordinates that Migo was just threatening them. Migo tightened the dagger and challenged Kyo to try. He smiled, saying that if Kyo lost, he would die. Kyo tried to find a hole while negotiating with him. Migo got furious and asked if he wanted to die. Immediately, Kyo then ordered the hunters to lower their weapons. The hunters looked at each other hesitantly, which led to what happened to shout desperately. The ground suddenly shook, making the hunters panic. A huge fire lizard emerged from the ground, breaking into pieces. They then recognized it was a 9-star rank fire lizard. Migo shouted to Alvariona, flying in the air amid the debris, and Yuna told him not to get close, but he jumped and tried to reach her. He then held her wrist and carried her away from the huge beast. The 2 landed perfectly on the ground, but huge debris came toward them. They were surprised when Rona passed by them and protected them from the huge debris. Migo suddenly ran toward Rona, who was falling while calling her. He took her in his arms and asked if she was okay. Rona suddenly pushed him and said she was fine. She turned her back, saying she was just returning the favor. The hunters fired their weapons at the huge lizard. Friend told himself it was a 9-star beast, and that normal attacks wouldn't affect it. The fire lizard suddenly spat a huge fire, causing the hunters to run for their lives. Friend carried Yuna and Rona while jumping to escape the fire. Friend told them they couldn't handle it and should run fast. He then ran faster through the abandoned city, but the fire lizard followed them. The 2 asked what was happening and why the lizard was following them. Friend revealed that the smell of the other lizard remained on Rona. Because of the detoxification, he then kept running. Suspecting the lizard was his offspring, Una's eyes widened, indicating there was a cliff ahead. Her voice echoed, indicating there was no way out. Friend stopped when they stopped at the edge of the cliff. One asked for one plan, but Friend said it was better to die than to die all at once. Yuna was incredulous upon hearing those words, while Rona asked what he was trying to do. Friend apologized and pushed Rona away. The latter asked if he was sacrificing her. Then she screamed, thinking the people in the city were not trustworthy. Yuna suddenly shouted with Friend, asking what he was trying to do. A Friend showed the blood on his hand. He then clenched his fist and explained to her that it was the one with the strongest smell. He wiped his face, saying that the fire lizard's target was now him. Yin's eyes teared up as she called Friend. He then pushed Yuna away too, sending her along with Rona. While asking her to take care of Yuna, he then smiled at them, saying he would live well. He then jumped off the cliff, while the fire lizard followed him. As the lizard descended, Yuna reached out to Friend with tears in her eyes. Rona looked worried, thinking that once again she owed her life to him. Friend gritted his teeth, thinking that falling could leave him crippled, as he could only use the skill from his previous life. Closed his eyes, wondering if his body could withstand it. He then stretched out his arms and activated his jump skill. While a red energy swirled in front of him, the energy disappeared. When he realized it was a bit challenging, his eyes widened. Realizing he would ruin his face if he didn't use it, he tried to activate the jump skill once again. A red energy formed in front of him when he stretched out his hand. It disappeared again, making him scream. While descending, a huge golden wing suddenly appeared. He then froze in admiration with his face covered in sweat. His fingers touched the ground when he realized the skill worked. He was confused upon seeing the system. Warning the system, then deducted half the chi he saved by defeating monsters. He examined the system and realized he had a self-rescue function, but it was costly. Friend then looked up alarmed. The fire lizard furiously descended from the cliff. He realized the place was an abandoned amusement park. He then decided to hide, because he couldn't handle the fire lizard in his current state. The system prompt suddenly announced a special mission to kill the fire lizard. He realized it was the first time the system gave him a rewarded mission, but he had to pass it, so he jumped through the forest, leaving only a trail behind the system, then warned that if not accepted, all his remaining chi would be deducted. He then stopped, realizing that zeroing the chi would mean death. He gritted his teeth, wanting to keep a low profile, but the system forced him to complete the mission, making him retreat. He then faced the fire lizard, with just one plan to hit his weak point with a fatal blow. He then ran forward, thinking that if he was at a disadvantage, he would simply throw his own life away. The fire lizard opened its mouth wide. While Migo kept running away, he then used his art to jump to the sky and landed on the other side of the park, leaving the fire lizard behind him. then knelt down while red energy spun around him. The fire lizard followed him through the water, which was what he wanted. He then dove deep into the water while Migo jumped above. The water began to boil while the fire lizard was inside. Vomiting water down his throat, the fire lizard managed to escape the water. While Migo watched from above, he thought only his nostrils and brain could cause a fatal injury. Natal, the fire lizard, looked around, as if he had found him while he was on the Ferris wheel. He then jumped off the ride, aiming his spear at the fire lizard. It then opened its mouth to prepare an attack, but he landed just in time and pierced its nostril, while ordering it to die. The fire lizard reacted and screamed in pain, then realized that his physical strength was not enough to pierce. Deeply suddenly, the beast ran through the park with its mouth open. Migo decided to activate blood essence consumption while red energy spun around him. He then pushed the spear, trying to break it. The fire lizard then hit its head on the rocky wall, trapping Migo in the middle. He wiped his lips while grinding his teeth, thinking he was close. The system prompt appeared and congratulated him for defeating the beast. Red tendrils suddenly spun around his body. Leaving him confused, he then clutched his chest as if going through a hard moment. The system announced that the chi had reached its limit, and the rest could not be absorbed. He clutched his chest while leaning against the wall. The system asked if he wanted to undergo body modification. Since he couldn't handle the essence, Migo decided to press the yes button. The system then showed him how to mark the enemy and obtain their flesh to increase the limit. He looked and realized it was easy to get stronger. He was alarmed when the system told him he should complete it in 1 day to avoid death. Migo was shocked, thinking the punishment would be death, but decided to plan it carefully. A sudden wave of pain hit his chest again. He gasped, thinking it was uncomfortable, then sat down and decided to use his skill to relieve the pain. Meanwhile, inside the forest, there was an army camp. The soldiers captured the hunters, and one of them snarled, asking who gave them the right to capture them. The soldier pointed the gun at him, asking why they were sneaking into the military base. Someone suddenly appeared and ordered the soldier to lower his weapons. He then grabbed the hostage's shoulder and promised to release him. If he wasn't a spy, the man named Bruno smiled, saying they needed to interrogate them. The other hostages nodded when the leader stared at them. He then agreed and asked what they had to do. Bruno said they had a mine and asked for help. The leader raised his tied hand and asked Bruno ordered the soldiers to untie the hunters. The 2 hunters lay on top of the tree. While watching the military, the boy ordered his daughter to run back and ask for help. The daughter then followed her father's order. The daughter then jumped between the trees and ran back home. Meanwhile, one beast was pierced through its body. Migo stood before the defeated beast, deciding to take one weapon first. He then threw the piece of wood and walked through the forest. The system prompt appeared and offered a navigation service. Migo didn't admit he was lost, but the system asked again. Instituting sudden agreement, a golden light appeared. A chick emerged from it and landed on Migo's head. The chick pointed forward and told Migo there was a powerful enemy there. Migo looked at the chick incredulously, then walked towards it and followed. Meanwhile, the hunters were sent to the pit, using a rope as they landed in the pit. Bruno threw down 2 bags and asked them to fill one of them. Irritated, Hay asked why Bruno didn't come down. If it wasn't difficult, the leader asked if they hadn't smelled blood, saying it wasn't simple. So they gathered in the middle, alert to their surroundings. They prepared their weapons and got ready. The hunters entered the dark cave while the soldiers praised. Bruno, to convince them to come down, gave a wide ironic smile, arrogantly telling them to learn from him. The hunters kept walking, while their leader felt something was wrong. Suddenly, something hit his companion's foot, and he cried out in pain, while the others looked horrified. Immediately, they gathered their companion and asked what had happened. Dark tendrils suddenly appeared and quickly attacked the other hunters. The hunters looked around, but the tentacles were fast enough to attack, and everyone screamed in pain. When the tentacles cut their limbs, they panicked and wondered what to do. One of them said he would start collecting ore and asked for help. Another realized the soldiers had only brought them to serve as food for the beast. They gathered, unaware that the beast was above them. Meanwhile, Migo asked the chick if she still hadn't found it from the top of the tree and observed the military barracks. The chick complained and told him not to call it that. The system announced that the target was 500 meters away, and the navigation mission was over. Migo complained to the prompt, asked it to be specific. The chick slowly disappeared, but still didn't get along with me. The latter thought the beast was inside the barracks. The barracks were now full of laughter. The soldiers looked at the pit and announced that it had started. The hunters were now covered in bruises, as they could not retaliate. A monstrous mouth, lined with countless sharp teeth, opened. The hunters looked horrified. While it grabbed their companion, the hunters were devoured alive. While the others fled the place, the last one looked back. Hearing the screams of his companions, the hunter looked around, but was also captured by the monster. Migo then realized the monster was inside the pit and the soldiers were feeding it with humans. The soldiers laughed at the despair while risking their lives. A soldier suddenly asked why they kept feeding the beast with people. Bruno assumed the soldier was a rookie and asked if he knew alchemy. The soldier answered and told him what it was. Bruno grabbed him by the shoulder and said, "An alchemist is not simple." His eyes shone and revealed that they make a lot of money, with crimson crystals. The soldiers were surprised to discover that crimson crystals can really be refined. These crimson ones are precious, and Raven obtained a method to refine them. With a look of disgust, Bruno revealed that the most important material is human flesh. The soldiers cheerfully said they could refine many crystals, but Bruno replied it was not simple. An arrow suddenly shot, then hit the soldier directly in the throat. Everyone was shocked when the soldier fell into the pit. Bruno ordered them to crawl down. As there was an ambush, a handful of arrows hit each of the soldiers, making them shudder in pain. The other soldiers then ran and decided to fight back. Suddenly, they fired a gun, followed by several other soldiers amidst the flaming bullets. A man hid behind the wooden pillar. The man named Rio then aimed his arrow again and shot it toward the soldiers. Several arrows fell from the sky, catching Bruno off guard. While the other soldier fell, a rain of arrows hit each soldier. While Bruno crawled to escape, the soldiers who fell into the pit shouted for help. When the beast grabbed them with a flaming arrow, Rio admired directly in front of him, while others protected him. The flaming arrow hit the tanks, causing a huge explosion around. A robotic hand wiped the cloth, and its huge foot stepped on the ground. The hunters were surprised and asked what it was. It was a robot called 09, piloted by Bruno. He then shouted in anger and swore to kill the hunters. He fired the machine, creating a huge explosion and sending the hunters away. Rona raised her hand, preparing to launch her Vine ability. Vines began to sprout from the ground, wrapping around Medea. The others didn't waste time and fired their arrows, but it didn't work. Bruno smiled, confident that they would never be able to destroy his robot. Mac effortlessly tore off the vines stuck on his arms. He kept moving to tear off the vines from their branches. He shouted, judging it was time to show what he was really capable of. The mecha started bombarding them with countless bullets, leaving everyone in panic while chaos settled in. Hona couldn't believe what she was seeing. She couldn't help but curse while swearing to kill him. But then, a voice volunteered while he patted her on the shoulder. It was Migo advancing fearlessly and leaving Rona shocked. His steps were determined, advancing toward the mecha bow. Bruno saw but made the mistake of thinking it was just another cannon fodder. He turned the mecha bow against Migo and bombarded him with bullets, but his bullets were nullified by Migo's speed as he ran from side to side. It was then that he finally realized he was facing a martial artist. Rio was confused, but saw the opportunity given by Migo's help. He immediately raised his bow, imbuing the arrow with the wind attribute, then shot the arrow toward Bruno, who was worried about Migo's appearance. Bruno was completely surprised to see his defensive glass shattered. He turned furiously, swearing to kill the annoying trash that had done it, but that gave Migo the perfect chance to advance. His feet exploded with powerful flaming energy as he activated the jump technique, propelling him into the air while brandishing his spear against Bruno. His spear pierced the defensive glass, impaling Bruno from behind. In his last breath, he only managed to curse them as a distraction. Migo landed on the ground with a crash as he delivered the decisive blow. Like an action movie protagonist, he turned his back and let the explosion happen. The crowd erupted in applause, realizing he had won. Hannah praised Migo for the incredible performance he had just demonstrated. Rio expressed gratitude while Hannah added, saying that Migo saved her from the fire dragon. Upon hearing this, he couldn't even begin to express how grateful he was. Migo just gave a gentle smile, saying it was no big deal, then asked if he knew where the underground cave was in the camp, to which the father pointed and revealed that his people were locked there. Spying on the pit, Migo stated that the hole was used to feed animals. He offered to go down, as it would be dangerous for him, but the father could never bother Migo because of the matters of in response. Asked if they had experience fighting beasts in the dark, the warriors looked at each other hesitantly before answering. Rio explained that they normally do not fight beasts in the dark. Upon hearing this, Migo explained that it would be dangerous for them, and asked to be allowed to do it, and he still hesitated and tried to stop him from entering. Migo assured there was nothing to worry about and took his borrowed sword, and inside the dark tunnel, gusts of wind blew strongly, but they were not enough to extinguish Migo's torch fire. Holding the borrowed sword, he thought it had been a long time since he wielded one. A severely wounded man writhed while pointing to the iron door. He was a dying prisoner, leaving his last words, wishing they would be avenged after saying those words. He finally fell lifeless into Migo's arms, who carefully laid the body on the ground and closed his eyes. He pulled the sword that had been stuck in the ground. He burned with cold and silent rage as he looked ahead. He stopped in front of the iron door, preparing to break in. He struck fiercely, banging his fist against the iron door. A man inside peeked out, asking him to give the access code. With a fierce expression, he gave the code. Die. The man slammed the peephole shut, threatening Dallo to feed the sandworm. But his patience was running out, and he raised his right foot, furiously kicking the iron door with all his strength. The man felt the kick, but was confident Migo would never manage to destroy the door. However, the stone wall above the door began to crack, dust leaking. Only then did the man realize how foolish he was. But it was already too late. Migo knocked down the door. Crushing the man with his weight, Migo stepped over the iron door. Not caring about the man's body trapped underneath, he looked around, examining the filthy place, while remaining silent. The system then alerted about the presence of a suitable target ahead. With that, he speculated the target beast would be inside. He continued advancing, entering the hidden laboratory. With strange machines and devices inside, it turned out to be a facility to feed sandworms. He could not sense anyone, not even the aura of a beast. But the mistake was his. For having let his guard down, the enemy had sneaked completely behind him, enraged for having disturbed his experiments. He stabbed Migo, who was completely surprised and gritted his teeth. Fortunately, he was quick enough to react and instantly dodge. He didn't even feel his presence, which led him to conclude that enemy was nothing simple. Migo realized that his wound was just a strange illusion. The system then alerted about the target's appearance, the level 2 martial artist and alchemist named Raven. Migo was surprised to see that his target was not a high-level beast, but a human. Raven wondered how he had entered. Since he was not his subordinate, Migo replied sarcastically that he used his legs to enter. Raven then was surprised to notice something. He trembled with uncontrollable rage, exploding with fury. And upon realizing that Migo had killed all his precious babies, he fell to his knees, slowly going insane. Migo could feel the target's strength, sensing a beast's aura inside him. He began to exhale his sinister energy. Enraged that his efforts had been in vain, he activated his ability, the Dark Knight's Stellar Territory, and dark energy was released. Migo realized it was a tutorial ability capable of completely stealing someone's vision. The most problematic when facing a martial artist is dealing with their abilities. Raven sneaked behind Migo, once again, who was still unaware. He raised his dagger imbued with sinister energy. He was about to stab him when Migo suddenly turned and attacked. Migo commented on how Raven removed his aura and fled even though he managed to react. The dagger kept piercing his back. Raven threatened him, saying he would die in 12 more attacks. Meanwhile, Migo found this territory skill annoying and gritted his teeth. The system then reminded him that marking the target would lock it in his field of vision, but 24 hours after marking, failure to kill the target would result in death. Raven continued on the offensive, while Migo tried to dodge. However, the third attack managed to hit his chest directly. He decided to treat him like a beast and hunt him. Today, he was sure one of them would die in this battle. He then ordered the system to mark Raven. Suddenly, sharp fangs were conjured, as if ready to devour anyone. The fangs began cutting through the air, as if searching for the target. They managed to pierce Raven's back and bit him. Raven was confused, wondering what had happened and why he had a bad feeling, but ignored the idea and turned to Migo, who still seemed oblivious. His mask couldn't hide his evil expression. While planning to feed his pups with Migo, he then advanced and intending to strike from behind, but Migo had already predicted it and ducked to dodge. He then quickly launched a counterattack with his sword cutting through the air. Raven was completely surprised. He was caught off guard. As he didn't expect it, Migo's relentless blade slashed upward, cutting Raven vertically. But luckily for Raven, he managed to teleport in time and dodge. He was so confused he asked how he knew where he was, but Migo refused to answer and just called him a coward. This only amused Raven. Finding the situation funny and interesting, his face took on a cruel expression, declaring that Migo was valuable material. He scratched his head, thinking about what to do in that situation. He then interlaced his fingers and finally found an answer. He said, to kneel and beg him to give a chance to get rich with him. But Migo had one counter-proposal. Raven should kneel and beg him to give one painless death. Upon hearing this, he laughed, finding his words interesting. He had never had anyone who wasn't afraid of him before. He assumed his combat stance, ready to attack Migo. He charged in an instant explosion of energy aiming at Migo's head. Migo managed to parry the attack with a sword strike. The two engaged in a fierce battle, exchanging deadly blows. Raven covered him with a burst of purple energy while the latter defended himself. He was even surprised to see that Migo could predict all his attacks. He wondered if these were the skills a level 1 martial artist should have. As he advanced, Migo finally saw a gap in his defenses. He didn't waste time, and immediately launched an attack aiming at his body. His sword cut a blue arc, piercing Raven vertically. Migo's attack finally hit Raven, who leaned back trying to dodge. He then retreated to a good distance, moving away from Migo. He was completely surprised to have kept up with his speed. Moreover, he also felt a terrifying pressure coming from his body. Migo gave him a cold look and asked if he was scared. He stood firm, planting his foot firmly on the ground. It was then that Raven began to feel a sense of dread and anxiety. He was sweating, just thinking that he could die at the hands of his level 1 trash. Migo didn't wait any longer and swung his sword at Raven. who denied that the situation was possible. He launched a condensed dark lightning sphere toward Migo, but the latter cut it effortlessly. With just one sword strike, a powerful purple explosion followed, releasing dazzling rays of purple light. Migo realized his mistake by allowing Raven to hide from everyone's view. He didn't notice that in that short span of time, Raven had already managed to attack. He gritted his teeth, shocked to see 2 blades stuck in his chest. Raven passed by him, counting that only 7 attacks were left. Migo turned around, declaring that it was already enough time to kill Raven. But his hands were then covered by a crimson energy that gradually enveloped his entire body in a strange armor, crimson. Migo remained unshaken, commenting on his peculiar appearance. He wasted no time and immediately advanced, delivering a powerful sword strike against him, but was surprised to see the strange properties of his crimson armor. He was shocked to discover that his attacks no longer worked against his defenses. To make matters worse, his sword was stuck and tangled in the armor. Raven launched an attack while he blocked it with his bare arms, then counterattacked and released his energy explosion. Migo stabbed the sword into him. Raven mocked him, saying he couldn't pierce his armor even with the sword's chi. He then prepared his weapon, informing Migo that 6 more strikes and he would die. Migo realized that the dark dagger was absorbing his chi and energy, looked at him thinking that Raven trusted his armor too much. Determined, he decided to cut through the armor and win. In his past life, he swung countless times against the sun to reach a supreme state of swordsmanship. He faced the sun, wanting to cut the fastest light in the world. In the end, Migo couldn't do it. He jumped up and cut the light with supreme force, but failed, yet managed to cut the sun into 8 pieces. Meanwhile, a golden and dazzling cut pierced Raven's body. The latter fell as smoke rose from his body, then knelt on the ground, panting. Raven mocked in pain, still conscious. Migo stood before him thinking he wouldn't be able to kill him with a single strike, even using a skill. Raven frowned and asked why Migo had such sword technique. The system prompt asked if Migo wanted to devour the opponent. Migo was confused because the system wanted him to devour a human. Raven gritted his teeth, upset about losing to a level 1. Migo asked why Raven used humans to feed the beast, since they had no enmity with him. Raven smiled broadly, saying that humans also had no value to him. With a distorted expression, he proudly admitted that he had turned humans into valuable crystals. Migo's eyes narrowed, and he told him he had no right to judge others' values. Raven gave an ironic smile, saying that the strong can do whatever they want with the weak. He remembered being attacked by a beast, which made him realize that being weak is a sin. He told him that trash doesn't resist being trampled by the strong, with an ironic smile. He declared that the strong become stronger by devouring the weak. Migo revealed he was killing him for being evil, not for being weak. Raven looked at him while mocking, saying Migo was doing this for justice. He pointed at him and demanded his right to judge his sins. The system announced that he had obtained the skill Hand of Vengeance, capable of destroying all types of defense. Migo also obtained the ability to generate crimson crystals. Migo scratched his chin, thinking about the skills he acquired after devouring Raven. His eyes shone, thinking he could make a lot of money. The image of his sister selling skewers appeared in his mind. He smiled, thinking he no longer needed to worry. The system announced that time was unlocked. Migo raised his hand and tied his Blade of Revenge. The system then showed the attributes of the Blade of Revenge. And its origin, Migo thought about not using it frequently, because it was a cursed weapon. He then opened a note and discovered it was an experimental book outside the military barracks. A group of fallen hunters was now covered. Anna cried while watching them silently, while others also cried for their companions. Migo looked down and apologized for not being able to save him. Rio gave him a pat on the shoulder, saying he had already done a lot, then ordered everyone to bring the useful loot and bomb the entire barracks. They set fire to the ditch and burned the military barracks. Outside the barracks, the hunters moved away with Migo and Rona. Migo looked at Rio and said it was no longer safe to stay there. Rio thought about it and said he would find a new place for them. Meanwhile, inside the abandoned city, the civilians happily enjoyed their free time, then welcomed the hunters. Yuna smiled and recognized Migo from a distance, then ran happily. Relieved that Migo was okay, Migo held her face and said, "Running too fast is dangerous." Yuna apologized awkwardly and said she was very excited. Migo patted her head and reassured her, informing her that they could go home anytime. Rona interrupted the two and asked if they were a couple. Meanwhile, Migo told Rona to keep an eye out. A crab was surprised by them. Migo raised his hand and activated his Hand of Revenge. A huge hand stopped over the crab. Migo then clenched his fist tightly. The huge hand also clenched its fist and crushed the poor crab. Rona's jaw dropped as she held her head, also clenched his fist and crushed the poor crab. Rona's jaw dropped as she held her head. In shock, Migo grabs the crab meat and says to Rona that they can go back now to get her mother's medicine.